Hello friends, Mandar here. I'm back with another video. Today we will talk about the historic settlement that was reached for H4 EAD and L2 EAD. There is some good news that will bring relief to a lot of people who are in the H4 EAD status and also the L2 status. And I will also cover some important questions that I have been getting on my email and on my channel. So you never know which question is going to be important to you. So watch this video until the end and let's get started. If you are here for the first time, welcome. My name is Mandar and I make immigration related videos for US and Canada. I'm not an immigration lawyer, so anything that I say on this video or on my channel is for information purpose only. And for your specific immigration needs, you should hire a competent immigration lawyer. Now, a lot of people have been messaging me that they just recently got their green cards, and this is a great news. Thank you for sending this message and this information, because that helps and encourages a lot of people who are waiting in the line for decades. So keep sending that. If you get your green card after a long time, after a long wait, share your experience in the comment section below, and that can be an encouragement to a lot of other people who are waiting. Now, before we get into the EAD topic, I wanted to cover some important questions that I have been getting from a lot of viewers. So let's start with the first one. Now, we have seen in the last several months, since July, August and September, during the last quarter of the last fiscal year of immigration, there were a lot of green cards that were given out, and that was because they had to use up the numbers that were available for the FY21 year. So USCIS really expedited their process, and especially in the last section of the adjustment of status, where they require you to provide your medicals, they have been calling people, they have been sending letters and courtesy letters and things like that. And that was supposed to end on September 30th because the rush was completed. But it seems like they are continuing to make that effort to give out as many green cards as possible. The reason I'm saying this is because people still continue to get those courtesy letters to submit their medicals. This has been a proactive effort from the part of USCIS to make sure that the individuals are ready. In case they haven't submitted their I-693, they should be ready with their letters. They should be ready with their forms and packages and submit it, and not even wait and should not wait for the RFE to be created. So that kind of expedites your process. It completes your application documentation, and if your priority date is current, you may get a green card. So it's a good sign, I would say. A lot of people have been telling me that I got this courtesy letter, what can I do about it? It's just a matter of if you have already submitted your medicals, and if it's within the last 2 years, then you should be fine. But if you haven't submitted, so this letter provides you with a reminder that you need to do that, and you should proactively actually submit your medicals to them, with the hope of that will give a nudge to USCIS to issue you a green card. So I hope that explains. Now, before moving forward, I would like to take a moment and pause here to ask you to please hit the like button, because I spend a lot of time and my energy and my effort in going through the information and presenting it to you through the form of videos. But your likes and subscribes kind of motivate me to continue to do these videos. So if you haven't done so, please hit the like button at this point of time, and a subscribe would be awesome. Now, as we all know, there has been a delay in the Texas processing center for whatever reason. There are 4 different processing centers: California, Texas, Nebraska and Vermont, and we are seeing that the Texas is taking the longest, as per the information that we receive from several different individuals. Now, one of the questions that I get is are these applications processed in order of their priority date, in the sense that whoever has the earlier priority date gets processed before whoever has the later priority date, or is there any other way? Now, we heard from Charlie in a few of his interviews that this once your case is documentarily complete, all things being equal, it is all first come and first serve. So it's not based on priority as we understand it now. I used to think that it would be based on the priority date. The earlier priority date would get a preference in the line, because obviously you are standing in a line for the green card, and whoever is the earliest should get the priority for the green card earlier. But that's apparently is not the case. Say if there are a pool of applicants who are all documentarily completed, it all depends on who made the application or who became the documentarily complete before the others, that person will get prioritized in getting the green card. That's what it seems to be. Now, why Texas Service Center is issuing very slowly, I have no idea, and I don't think any other lawyers would have any idea either. It's just something that we have seen because cases get transferred from one service center to another to kind of load balance them, but in some cases they may not be looking at the number of people working at that center when the extra cases from other centers are coming their way. So that might be one of the reasons, but that's just my pure speculation. There is no logical reason why Texas is slower than other service centers. Now, some of the people were asking why is the family-based preference category stalled or they are not moving forward, and we already heard from Charlie saying that because they have enough demand, they see no reason why they should move these priority dates further. So except the F2A category, all the categories in family based are stuck in the priority days. F2A category, however, which is spouses and children of permanent resident, somehow is current for across the board. So there is no wait time for anyone. So if you are a spouse or child of a green card holder, your date should be current. Now, somebody asked me what does it mean by documentarily complete, specifically in the case where you have a downgrade petition from EB2 to EB3 and you have gotten your EAD. Does that make it qualified documentarily complete? I think documentarily complete does not have anything to do with EAD. EAD is just a step in the process where they issue an EAD. Once you use that EAD, you are kind of locked in that particular category of visa. But here is the thing, even if your EB2 case was documentarily complete and you applied for a downgrade petition, in the sense that you applied for another EB3 I-140 and 485, your EB2 will continue to process to the point where it is ready to be issued for a green card if your priority date is current. Now, whichever comes first, say for instance your EB2 is retrogressed and EB3 say for instance your EB2 date is still not current in the final action date chart, but your EB3 date is current in the final action date chart. In that case, the EB3 will pick up speed and then it will get ahead of your EB2 case, and your EB3 visa number will be allocated for your EB3 application, and your EB2 will be withdrawn automatically by the visa officer. So hope that makes sense. So both the cases will remain in parallel until one gets ahead of the other, to the point where it comes to the point where they request a visa number. So whichever whichever category is current for you at the time of requesting the visa number, that category will move forward. So I hope that logic makes sense. Now let's talk about the topic of this video. There has been some great news for the EAD, specifically the dependent EAD card. Now in the last several months we have seen the H4 EADs are taking way longer. Like they used to take statutorily the USCIS is supposed to issue you EAD within 30 days, but it has never happened. The normal processing times were 90 days or 3 to 4 months, and that was still acceptable because it's still within the acceptable range. But lately in the last year or year and a half, we have seen that EADs are taking way longer. They are taking up to 8 to 9 months or even up to a year, and some people are saying that they have waited for more than a year and they still haven't got their EAD. Now this has a very big impact on their lives because they are working on a job and they cannot continue to work if their EAD expires. This is specific to H4 EAD because there is currently no automatic extension. So once your H4 EAD expires, you cannot work basically. Now what this settlement has done is AILA, which is American Immigration Lawyers Association, and its litigation partner achieve a historic settlement in the case of Shergill. So it must be the name of the plaintiff who put a case against the USCIS in their case. So there are 2 points to understand here. Now for H4, as long as the underlying H1 and H4 is valid, and if your H4 EAD expires and you have your extension pending, there is going to be an automatic extension of your EAD for 180 days up to 6 months. This is exactly similar to green card EAD rule, where you are allowed to continue to work, or there is an automatic extension of your EAD for up to 180 days for green card EAD, but that was not true for H4 EAD. Now this settlement says that it will apply for H4 EAD as well. This is a great news, because now you don't have to worry for another 6 months to get your EAD, as long as you have already filed for your H4 extension. Now remember, there are a couple of things that you need to remember, because H4 EAD is based on two things. It is based on the underlying H1B. So the primary applicant should still be on a valid H1B status, and the dependent who is benefiting from the H4 EAD should also have a valid H4, or the application should be made at the same time, and only then an H4 EAD can be issued. So as long as those conditions are met, there will be an automatic extension going forward for your H4 EAD up to 6 months. You will still need to apply for your renewal, and make sure your renewal is applied at least 6 months before your expiry date on your H4 EAD. So that will make sure that you get 6 months prior to expiry, and then 6 months after the expiry. So the total of about a year within which your extension should come in. So this will be a relief for a lot of people, because in the past, because the extension was taking so long, some people even lost their jobs, which was not really fair, and that's where this lawsuit comes into play. So it's a good news for a lot of people. Now on the L2 side, it used to be that L2 were automatically eligible for an work authorization, but you had to actually apply for an EAD to get that work authorization. Now in the new ruling with this settlement, what they are saying is L2 is automatically eligible to work authorization, and you don't necessarily have to apply for an EAD. So once you are in a valid L2, which is the status of the dependent on a L1, you should be able to work immediately without even applying for an EAD. But I think that this is a very good news for a lot of H4 EAD people and L2 EAD people. Now let's look at the Forbes news, what they have to say. Now here is the Forbes article that says USCIS settlement is good news for L1 and H1B visa spouses. So basically they say the same thing that I told you, that L1 L2 visa holders will automatically be able to use the work authorization. Basically they will be able to work immediately, and H4 EAD will have an automatic extension for up to 180 days, which is 6 months. So let's look at some of the key things in here. Now let's look at what they are saying. If you are a spouse of an L1 or H1B, good news has been rare in the recent years. USCIS exacerbated the wait for employment-based green cards, causing long processing delays for work authorization as well. Now with this new legal settlement, USCIS brings relief to many of these spouses, although continued litigation is needed for additional changes once implemented by the agency. So now here's the key, it doesn't give it a start date. I'm assuming that this is effective immediately, but if somebody has any information on when this would be effective, please put that in the comment section below. My assumption is this is starting immediately. The L2s will no longer have to apply for authorization and need an EAD as a proof of work, proof in order to work in the United States. Exactly what I said. And for H4 spouses who have lawful status and merely need to renew their employment authorization, they will now enjoy an automatic extension of their authorization for 180 days after expiration, should the agency fail to process their timely application. So excellent news for H4 EAD and also L2 dependents who were struggling to get their employment authorization card to continue to work for their employers. So put down in the comment section below, how do you feel about this, and what else should happen in this area of EAD that you would like to see in the future. Now I continue to get this another question, that can you quit your job while you have your green card EAD during the process of your adjustment of status? And I continue to answer this question in multiple videos, that yes, you can technically not work on an EAD Your adjustment of status, your 485 in itself provides you that valid status. You don't have to be on your non-immigrant visa. But remember, if you are on a non-immigrant visa such as H1 or L1, and if you want to maintain that non-immigrant status, then you have to continue to work. You have to maintain that particular status. But if you are not, if you don't care for that non-immigrant status while you are in adjustment of status, and if you have an EAD, you don't have to work. Actually, you can choose not to work. Remember, the only time when your job is going to be considered is when they are ready to do a decision on your green card. At that point of time, you should have a valid bona fide job offer that was mentioned on your 485. Until that point, you are free to not work multiple jobs, whatever you want to do, as long as it's legitimate. And another question is, and this is the most common question, is should I downgrade or should I upgrade from EB2 to EB3, EB3 to EB2? Now that the EB3 dates have retrogressed, I would caution you to downgrade from EB2 to EB3 at in any circumstance. Stay in your lane. If you are in EB2, if you are close, your priority date is close to getting current in the next several months, up to a year, don't bother downgrading. Save your money and just continue to do your job, and your time will come. And same for the upgrade situation as well. If you have recently downgraded to EB3 and your EB2 I-140 is still valid, don't bother again upgrading to EB2. Just continue in the lane which is faster and stay in that lane, and eventually you should get your green card. So I hope you liked the content of this video. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.